And now we'd like to welcome to the program Franak Viačorka, advisor to Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya of the Free Belarus. Hello and welcome to TVP World today. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon.
Now, we've seen Judge Szmydt defect to Belarus, essentially becoming, well, quite a key player when it comes to spreading propaganda. He's been talking about how horrible it is here in Poland and how scared he is to live here. So I guess from everything that you've seen from this defector and most likely a Russian asset, what can you tell us about the latest about what he's been saying in the media?
Propaganda is actively using him every single day, every single hour. Lukashenko's TV, but also Russian resources such as Sputnik inviting him to the interviews where he's criticizing Poland, the West, the policy of sanctions. He's trying to justify himself that he was running from the dictatorial regime, and he calls himself as a dissident in Poland. Gosh, of course, for propaganda for Lukashenko, it's a big achievement. Of course, they will be using him so much as it's possible to justify their own crimes and their own provocations against the West. But we remember another provocator, another guy used by Lukashenko's propaganda, Emil Chechko, who also was used by Lukashenko's propaganda, who also came to Belarus from Poland, but after 3 months, he committed suicide.
The story is obviously developing here in Poland. We've just had an announcement from the Justice Minister, Adam Bodnar, that essentially removes Tomasz Szmydt's immunity. But more importantly, there's approval for his arrest on espionage charges. So essentially, he is now a criminal. Does that change Tomasz Szmydt's status in Belarus? Because essentially, there is a criminal there.
Obviously, Lukashenko will not be extraditing Szmydt to Poland. There is no any sense for him to do that. Opposite, he will use it as again, to justify, like, see, it's they accuse him in spy. It means that he's a real hero. So for dictatorship, always, the black is white, white is black. They never tell the truth. The only thing they care is their own power and their own interests. And of course, I rely on Polish government, on Polish secret services. I rely on thorough investigation they're conducting right now. And I do believe that we will know the truth very soon. What was his role of this judge? Why he appeared in Poland? What kind of information he was providing, if any? I want to know the truth, of course, and I'm sure Poland will provide us there.
Right. Well, while we're waiting for those details, we can sort of kind of look to the future a little bit and imagine what life will be like for this judge who's defected. How long do you think that he'll be useful and relevant in the propaganda TV cycle, both in Belarus and Russia? Surely after his story becomes more widespread and everybody's heard it 3 or 4 or 5 times over, he won't be quite as useful to the regimes as he is now. So what does a guy like that do when that time has come?
Good question. I think such stories are living maximum 1 month. Lukashenko and Russian propaganda will be inviting him perhaps this and next week to interviews and TV shows. But after, they used him on maximum, he will not be needed anymore. We remember Roman Protasevich, the journalist who was kidnapped from the Ryanair flight hijacked by Lukashenko's regime. So he was used by propaganda for some time, and then he was forgotten. And right now, the regime doesn't need Roman Protasevich anymore after the regime broke him completely and forced him to testify to in everything, in all crimes he never committed. For the regime behaves same way as Stalin regime, as KGB, Soviet KGB, the same way. We remember such stories, from 100 years ago, 80 years ago, when people from the West were coming to the Soviet Union and telling the horrible stories about life there. So I think such practices, they just unfortunately became our reality again. History repeats.
And how successful do you think that Szmydt is in terms of being a pawn to undermine Poland as a democratic country in the eyes of the West, because essentially, we are 1 month away from the European parliamentary elections, and really, to have this sort of case blow up is not very good for Poland's image in the West and in the region.
I wouldn't I wouldn't think it's so dramatic, because everyone understands that Russia has spies and that Lukashenko and Putin's regime are criminal regimes. It's mafia. And of course, they have their own people, and of course, they break international laws. So I wouldn't say that it will harm Polish image. Opposite. It must put more attention on strengthening security. It must show that Poland and Lithuania might be targets by Putin's regime and Lukashenko as well. So I hope the Western democratic society will help Poland and Lithuania to improve their own security services in order to identify and block such agents.
Now, talking about his longevity, once again, you said that he's probably going to be of limited use. Once his story is repeated several times over, he will no longer be useful to those authorities. But perhaps he could spin new lies. Perhaps he could release new evidence or new claims that will serve propaganda purposes in Russia. Is that potentially a possibility, that he could be a more prominent figure for a longer amount of time?
I don't think such stories live for so long. And of course, if he has some access, some data, some important information, of course, propaganda might be using this information. But I don't think this story will change completely, the situation before European elections or perception of Russia or Lukashenko. For Belarusian society, it doesn't mean much because Belarusians don't trust propaganda. Belarusians don't trust Lukashenko. For international community, it should be alarm clock, that we should be very careful, very cautious. We must be tougher on Putin and Lukashenko, and we must help those who fight these regimes, including Belarusian democratic forces, who are both inside the country and outside the country, do all possible to bring changes in our country.
And just on a very practical level, how are commentators in Belarus, those who are fighting, obviously, for free speech, how are they receiving and how are they analyzing this story in Poland?
I saw many comments, and of course it was shocking news in the beginning that it happened. I saw many versions what could happen, or this is just an useful idiot who decided to go to Lukashenko, or it's a spy. But the most impressive was that this person had immunity. And in Poland, there is no verification for judges like that. So I think that was one of the comments I have read, and which impressed Belarusians a lot, because we believe that in the European Union, everything is verified, everything is checked. So it showed some vulnerability of democratic societies as well.
Okay, well, it seems for now he is indeed a useful idiot. Maybe later on, when we have more details, we'll find out whether he was a spy who leaked confidential information. Well, Franak Viačorka, advisor to Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, president of Free Belarus, thank you very much for joining us here on TVP World today.
Thank you.